In this video, I'm going to show you a couple more three-way switches that you might run across if you're working in an older home, or you might want to use under certain circumstances. As always, electricity is dangerous and can hurt or even kill you, so I do not recommend you try any of this. I'm only sharing information. This video assumes you already know how a typical three-way switch is wired. If you don't know how a three-way switch is wired, go check out this video here. This video also assumes you know how a basic switch loop is wired. And if you don't know how to wire one of those, go check out this video. Both of these videos will be in the description. Let's get into it. So if you have a room with two switches and you go to change a light fixture, you might see what appears to be a confusing mess of wires in the light box. But if you pop open either of the switch boxes, you might see only one cable coming in with only 3 or 4 wires. And today I'm going to do my best to take the confusion out of it. After that, I'm going to show you another three-way switch option that is still totally legal and uses less wire. And I've found it often works better than the standard three-way switch setup. In a switch loop setup, the power goes directly to the light box, and then the hot wire is basically sent down to the switch and back up to the light in a loop. So in a three-way switch loop setup, the power goes directly to the light box, but the hot loop portion must go through 2 switches before coming back to the light. Because, as we know, 2 three-way switches are basically one compound light switch. The power must enter one of the switch's common terminals and then finally exit the other switch's common terminal to get power to the light. So how do we do this? Here we have our light fixture box and 2 three-way switches. As I said, in a switch loop setup, the power comes directly from the panel or a junction box into the light box. In a single switch setup, we can just drop another 14-2 or 12-2, depending on the size of breaker on the circuit, and that would complete our loop. In a three-way switch loop setup, we need to drop a cable of 14-3 or 12-3 from the light box to the 2 switch boxes. Now that we have the cables where they need to go, let's make the connections. I'm going to make the connections in an order that makes it easier to understand while explaining, so I'll be going back and forth between boxes. But once you understand, you'll probably want to focus on all the connections in one box at a time if you're working on a real circuit. What we always want to end up with when we're finished is an obvious hot and neutral black and white wire in the switch box to which we can connect our light fixture. We're not going to talk about the ground wires in this video. We're just going to assume you know that all the grounds get connected together to any metal boxes and to any devices that have a ground connection. So here is our 14-2 coming straight into the light box from our power source. Here's where the neutral stops. It will be connected directly to our light fixture and not involved in the switches in any way. As long as you're not dealing with smart switches, the neutral always goes directly to the light fixture. Smart switches require a neutral to run their electronics, but that's another video entirely. Now we're left with the hot wire, and we know that all switches do is make or break the connection of the hot wire to our light fixture. So we have to send the power from the hot down through both of our switches and back up to the light. We know ultimately the power comes into the terminal of the first switch and out of the terminal of the last switch to the light fixture. We'll use our black wires for that. That will give us an obvious black and white wire in our light box, which will connect to our light fixture. Now all we have left are our traveler terminals that need to be connected. They'll just basically pass through the light box. So we'll connect the reds together and to a traveler terminal, and we'll connect our whites together and to the other traveler terminal. And since the whites are going to be used as hots, because all of the wires in a three-way switch can be hot at any time, we'll use our black tape to show this is hot and not neutral. That's it. Now let's walk through it. The power comes into the light box, the neutral goes directly to the fixture, the hot goes down to whichever switch we want to be the first one, and connects to the common terminal. The power travels through either the red wire or the relabeled white wire, depending on which orientation the switches are in, and comes out of the second common terminal back up to the light fixture. The power comes into the light box, the neutral goes directly to the fixture, the hot goes down to whichever switch we want to call first, and connects to the common terminal. The power travels through either the red wire or the relabeled white wire, depending on which orientation the switch is in, and comes out of the second common terminal back up to the light fixture. As you know, that switch setup is no longer code compliant because you need a neutral in at least one of those switch boxes to make it smart switch ready. But now we'll look at a totally code compliant three-way switch setup that I find works better than the standard three-way switch setup where the power comes into one switch first. Most rooms that need two three-way switches have switches on opposite ends of the room with the light in the middle. And if we draw up a textbook connection to these, we'd bring power over here, then send it over here on 14.3 or 12.3, then up to the light on 14.2 or 12.2. But in most cases, wouldn't it save wire to bring power through the light box instead of backtracking? That's what we're going to do. So our power comes from the panel or junction box into our first switch box. Then we're going to go ahead and run 14.3 up to our light from this box and down to our other switch from the light. Now let's make the connections. We want the neutral to connect directly to the light as always, so it will just pass through this first box and head up to the light box. Then we'll connect the hot to the common of our first switch. And as always, the hot from the last switch will go directly to our fixture. And we'll of course use black so that we have our obvious black and white wires in our fixture box to connect to our light. Now the rest are travelers, which we just need to connect together. On this side, since our white wire had to be used for the neutral, black and red will have to be our travelers. Then on this side, since our black was our hot going up to the light, our white and red will be our travelers. But as we know, a traveler can be hot at any given time, so we'll mark the white black to show it's hot. And this will also make our connections easier in our light box, as now we can connect red to red and white, which is posing as black, to black. Now let's walk through it. The power comes into the first switch box. The neutral goes on up to the light fixture. The hot goes to the common terminal. The power travels through either of the travelers depending on the orientation of the switch, through our light box, down to the other switch, where it finally comes out of our common terminal through the black wire and up to our light fixture. The power comes into the first switch box. The neutral goes on up to the light fixture. The hot goes to the common terminal. The power travels through either of the travelers depending on the orientation of the switch, through our light box, down to the other switch, where it finally comes out of our common terminal through the black wire and up to our light fixture. That's it. Now you should be able to wire or troubleshoot pretty much any three-way switch setup, especially if you've watched my other switch videos. If you've enjoyed this video or found it helpful in some way, please consider hitting the like button and maybe even subscribing. And as always, thank you for watching. Please comment below, and I hope to see y'all in the next one. This is where I'm working today. Dog of the day, and apparently they just stay together to stay warm all day long. Is your buddy leaving you?